Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and tuning in to DV Talks today. I am Mike Evans. I'm a managing director and partner with BCG Digital Ventures, which is the corporate innovation and business building arm of the Boston Consulting Group. For those of you who are not familiar, DV Talks is a recurring series where we discuss trending topics with CEOs and entrepreneurs and founders from our ventures. Today, I have the distinct pleasure to introduce Joel Milne, who is a serial entrepreneur and CEO of RepairSmith, a venture incubated by DV back in 2018. Welcome, Joel. Happy to have you today.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Great. So let's dive right in. Joel, can you just give us a quick overview of what is RepairSmith and what problems do you solve for car owners and fleet managers?
Sure. So at RepairSmith, we're on a mission to make convenient car repair available everywhere. And what that means for consumers is that you can make an appointment online, get an upfront price quote, and then we'll come to your home and take care of your car repair and maintenance. It also applies to fleets. So for businesses that have fleets of vehicles, we'll come to their place of business. Oftentimes it can be weekends and off hours as well. And we will take care of the maintenance and the repair needed on that fleet to keep it up and running with minimal downtime. So we have a crew of technicians who are employees of our company, and for them it allows them to be part of a tech company that we think is modernizing the car repair industry. And so we think we provide great jobs for technicians, and then in our communities we offer free car repair services to charities to help community organizations that serve the needs of the communities where we operate fulfill their missions.
Great, thank you for that. So Joel, you launched RepairSmith back in 2019. A lot has changed in the world since then, COVID, and I'm sure the business has evolved. Can you just talk a little bit about how RepairSmith has evolved over the last couple of years?
Well, sure. A couple of years ago, we were very early on, and so we were still, figuring out how to deliver convenience in our industry. Car repair is a 50-year-old business model, right? It's pretty much telephone based still today and local retail based. So you pick up the phone, say, I have an issue, and they say, come on down, and you go to a local store or retail location and have your car repaired. So, we came up with a solution that was primarily based on e-commerce plus last mile delivery, kind of mobile logistics. And so a couple of years ago, we launched this service and really spent a lot of time in the product market fit experimentation stage of how to deliver convenient car repair, right? Like how do you make something that's been around for 50 years better and modern? And so we ended up settling on like I said, the e-commerce plus mobile delivery, and we were seeing great response from customers pre-COVID, and if anything, it certainly has accelerated consumer acceptance of at-home services and consumer preference of at-home services. But to be honest, we were seeing great reception prior to COVID. So if anything, it helped a bit, but ultimately, we work great before and after. And when COVID first hit, we quickly launched some cars are an essential service, and when things were shut down, people still needed their cars to get around. And so we quickly launched some charity programs for people who had been affected by COVID, lost their jobs, or needed to get to healthcare jobs reliably. And so we've implemented a number of COVID related programs since then.
Great, thank you. That's great. So Joel, one of the really important things for really any startup is finding product market fit. It's something that is very core to our methodology at DV, and we know that once our ventures leave the nest and go into the world, that's a constant thing. Can you talk a little bit about RepairSmith and the product market fit journey that you went through?
Sure. For us in particular, we had a whole bunch of ideas that lots of them didn't pan out, right? And so from providing loaner cars to towing vehicles and other services that we thought would make it more convenient to get your car repaired, but people didn't really love. And so it was a really valuable stage for us. We actually used a different name, business name, company name to kind of run a bunch of experiments. And we did it in a city that was not a core market of ours, right?
Hmm.
And we took out Facebook ads with different positioning, and we tried to offer different service levels, and saw what people valued and what they and what they say they value versus what they vote for with spending. Hey, do you want to spend an extra $30 a day and we'll leave you a loaner car? Very few people took us up on that, and so we owned a couple cars that we had to get rid of. And so ultimately it was just a lot of experiments, right? And nowadays you can do them so effectively, right? With a Facebook ad and I don't want to call it a fake landing page, but a positioning landing page, about value propositions, and maybe it's a very manual experience from that landing page where we were just handling them all individually. Each inquiry we're handling them individually, and there was no automation whatsoever. And we tested a bunch of things, and people loved getting their car repaired on site quickly, bang it out, and move on. And if you don't have everything ready, don't give me a loaner car, come back when you're done, or don't tow my car away unless you have to. So we learned a bunch of things, but it was really some of the things I thought would be winners were not winners. So it just reminds you that you never have the perfect idea. I think we had a perfect problem we were trying to solve, right? Which is that car repair is super low NPS, super high friction, very inconvenient, very low customer satisfaction, right? Like the problem we were trying to solve was correct, but the ways we first thought about it, a number of them didn't turn out to be correct.
That's really helpful. And when you were running these experiments, what sort of signals did you see that gave you confidence that a particular idea was, going to be fruitful?
I mean, certainly people leaving reviews for us.
Mhm.
There's this company that will remain unnamed that has a bunch of 5-star reviews on Facebook, because people were ordering our services off Facebook and then leaving reviews for us, right? And certainly, the surveys we sent, but just the unsolicited reviews. Hey, this was awesome. Can't wait to use you guys again. When you start when customers send you those kind of messages, like, oh, I'm telling my friends about it,
Right.
that's kind of when you have a winner on your hands.
Interesting. And so when you had to transfer people from that old brands over to RepairSmith, did you have any issues doing that?
No,
Customer
I mean
loss?
there weren't that many people, to be honest, right? It was one rented U-Haul truck, or it wasn't a U-Haul, but another, a box truck that we rented and wrapped, and 3 appointments a day over a couple months, right? If that, it was probably 2 appointments a day back then. So, it wasn't a big deal.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I know that you guys have been experiencing tremendous growth over the last year alone. I believe you have a 10x to your revenue, and that must be really challenging to have that amount of growth all at once. Can you just talk a little bit about that experience and how you've managed through such an insane amount of growth over the last year?
Sure. I mean, it's a very broad situation, right? Because we have gone about 10x in the last year, and we continue to grow at about 20% a month. And so, um, I mean, ultimately, startups are all about prioritization and trade-offs, right? There's probably 50 things we'd like to be doing right now that we know either customers want or we could be doing better. Um, but in a resource constrained world, whether it's time as a resource or money or people, you have to kind of pick your battles and pick your spots of greatest impact. And so, um, you know whether it's been on the hiring front and figuring out how to do that a lot better, on our product, on our customer service areas, I think it's we've been trying to prioritize the important things, but ultimately our North Star has been customer satisfaction, customer experience. So everything we've built has been very focused on delivering that great car repair experience, convenient, at a good price, in the driveway, showing up on time, communicating well, et cetera. And so, the end result for us is that we have an NPS score that's been in the mid 80s for a year now. Every month we track it on every appointment, and every month we publish a score. And it's, we're not just good for car repair, we're good for the best tech companies, in the country. And so, when customers love your product or your service, it gives you a lot of leeway to manage through the growth, right? So I think when they just like it, or find it saves them a few bucks, I think it's more difficult. But when they love it, and when they tell their friends, and when they send me thank you notes all the time about, like, why didn't this exist before, or thank goodness you're here now in Dallas or wherever it is, I get notes like that all the time. It gives us a lot of room to make mistakes, because we do, right? And so ultimately, delivering that great customer experience has been kind of the North Star through managing growth.
That's incredible. Such a high NPS score. Managing through that level of growth is really quite an accomplishment. So congratulations to you and the team for that. And I can only imagine there's a tremendous amount of growth that's left for RepairSmith. Can you talk about what's next for the company?
Oh, sure. I mean, a tremendous amount of growth left. Yes. I mean, we're in the earliest innings, right? If you think of our industry, there's 200,000 repair shops in the US, and we're just one. And we're only in about, at most 20% of the country by population currently. So we're at the very earliest stages of our, our journey, so to speak. So we will continue to expand geographically. Now that we've figured out how to do this at scale, deliver a great customer experience, make some money while doing it. We've kind of checked those early boxes that we have a business here that's worth pursuing. We have a business here that people care about. And now we got to do it in more places and at bigger volumes, which, it gets harder and harder the bigger you get, right? The further people are away from home base, right? When we have people operating in Florida and Washington State, and as far away in the country as you can get, it's more of a management challenge. And when you're doing more and more employees, obviously it's maintaining quality, maintaining discipline is difficult. But we really feel like we've set ourselves up for that next level of scaling, right? That's kind of where we are today. So we're just beginning that process. It applies on the consumer side, it applies on the fleet side. We're just getting going on really understanding how to serve businesses with large fleets. And so we're going to continue to invest in really our mobile logistics platform, our fleet delivery, our consumer delivery, and of course we'll continue our community-based programs in each market that we enter into.
Very great. All right, looks like we have a couple of audience questions coming in. Joel, let me just read a couple of these off for you. So the first question is, what consumer tech trends are you seeing in retail markets like auto repair?
Sure. So, I think the biggest trend in online retail is this concept of the end-to-end services or full stack retail commerce, where the experience of the customer all the way to the to the fulfillment is being disrupted. So the original disruptor of this was Amazon, right? Amazon, it wasn't enough to have a great e-commerce experience with Amazon. They really cared that you had a really good delivery experience, and spent 10 years and billions of dollars invested in warehouses and supply chain and mobile logistics. And now we all just take for granted that I can order a $2 pack of gum and it shows up at my door the next day for free, right? Which is wild. Or where before you had to have a certain card amount and it takes a week. I still order something online and it takes a week to arrive. And so in some places, and I think that's no longer becoming acceptable. So we've seen this in automotive with the Carvana and Vroom and Shift true e-commerce delivery experience, where the car shows up in your driveway and you don't have that friction of having to go to the dealership and having to go, get a ride there and pick up the car and negotiate, et cetera, et cetera. So we've seen that revolution in automotive, but we're seeing it across all retail. In grocery, we're seeing it, obviously in restaurant, it's been out for a while now. So I think thinking about removing the friction of that last mile of getting my product is going to really differentiate between the haves and the have-nots in the next wave of e-commerce disruptors.
That's great. And maybe if I could just pile on with a follow-up question there as well. You're seeing a lot of car manufacturers, like obviously starting with Tesla and others who are going more into electrification of cars. How do you think that will impact RepairSmith's business and just automotive repair in general as we go forward?
Well, yeah, I think that Tesla has definitely set a standard in high quality mobile repair, right? And we stand alone on the independent market of providing that high quality OEM repair, where it's not just somebody with their own pickup truck and their own tools showing up, but it's a modern repair shop experience with all the scanners and equipment and computerized the computer equipment and the parts and the tools needed to do high quality repair.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're going to see this more and more on the OEM level, and we're certainly going to provide it in the what's called the independent market, which is where most used car owners shop for their repair and maintenance. And so I think everyone recognizes it's a trend that's not going away, that will become the standard. It's just a matter of, is it a 5-year period, is it a 10-year period? But I think at-home services are here to stay in automotive for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Okay, I see another question that's come in. So it says, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs?
Well, that's it's certainly a broad question, but I continue to be jealous of new entrepreneurs these days, because it's a great time to get into entrepreneurship, right? Like I won't exactly date myself, but there was no real internet entrepreneurship scene when I started my very first company, and you had to kind of find the local lawyer who could introduce you to a local investor and figure out how this all worked. And there's a small offline scene of people who knew how seed investing worked. It's all become very institutionalized. So there's a number of things going on right now that I think make it just an amazing time to get into entrepreneurship, right? One, the information base that's out there, from talks like this to there's to a billion Medium articles on every aspect of fundraising and product launch and strategies and every idea is out there on the internet in terms of how to build a startup, right? And how to raise money for a startup. Plus, you layer in the fact that there's all these institutionalized pre-seed incubators and programs to help you with resources get off the ground, even if you're non-technical. I mean, I don't want to say it's entrepreneurship in a box, but it's getting pretty close, right? There's a lot of institutional help at that early stage, which didn't exist, 10, 20 years ago. And finally, like from a market standpoint, there's a ton of capital out there and a ton of disruption opportunity with people looking for new, whether it's new ways to work paradigms or new ways to buy for consumers, removing friction and modernizing current experiences is there are countless opportunities to do that in the world today. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a clear path, both from great ideas to great capital to great resources to get started. So it couldn't be a better time is the sum answer of that.
That's super helpful. And Joel, it'd be helpful to understand your journey as an entrepreneur. I know you've started several companies over the years. You're a CEO now, but I think you've held many different sort of roles, even on the technical side in the past. So can you just tell our audience a little bit more about your personal journey?
Sure. I grew up as a programmer throughout, pre-high school and high school in the early days of computers. So I do have a technical background, computer technical, and, have an engineering degree. But since graduating from undergrad with an engineering degree, I started my first company, right? And I graduated kind of right into the internet 1.0 revolution, boom, bust, however you want to call it. And so it's kind of been my whole career of building tech companies, right? So this is my 5th venture over the last previous 20 years, I did 4 companies. 2 were successful, 2 not. But my personal journey was really one of individual contributor. I was a pretty good programmer, and I had a pretty good I could talk to people and sell the business side of software. I worked as a salesperson selling skis and selling McDonald's all through high school, so I had some basic sales experience. And so combining sales and computer know-how, I was able to go from individual contributor to kind of manager, and then eventually kind of executive level, where it's much more about the strategy and building teams and letting other great people do the day-to-day contributions, and learning how to let go and evolve as an executive. So that's been my career, culminating in RepairSmith, where I hopefully is the crescendo of my consumer internet career.
That's great. And when you're hiring people, Joel, into RepairSmith, into either executive roles or other roles, what are you looking for from those people?
Oh, wow. I mean, we have hundreds of employees at this point, so it's a very broad, a broad question. But generally speaking, we're looking for people who are smart and culturally fit, the people that we want to work with, which might not be the most star performer. So cultural fit is super important, because otherwise you'll end up with a very difficult culture. I think people with upward potential. So I like to think about hiring for the next spot up in a lot of roles, right? Where, does this person have the ability to grow with us and reach the next level and the next level and the next level? And so hiring people who are on the upward trajectory of their career, I think, is one general characteristic we often look for.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, Joel, but really appreciate you spending the time with us today. And thanks for providing some great advice to entrepreneurs and providing your perspective on RepairSmith. We're really excited to see what comes next for you. We'll be watching you closely. And thanks again, and talk to you soon.
Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.